Like we're already live. So welcome to Map Burn, everyone. We've got Eric Shankles of Jemison, Tripman Otis from Jasper High School.
Don't call me Tripman. Don't do that. Trip. It's Trip.
All right, it looks like we're already live. All right. Let me turn off the sound over there. Okay, there we go. We got Coach Tripp from Jasper.
That's me.
We've got Nick's dad and Bradley's dad, because that's how they'll be known from now on.
That's right.
They're
it's
on
B-Rad. It's B-Rad. It's not Bradley. It's B-Rad.
B-Rad. That's right. So I told Mrs. Matburn about that. She loves that name. Future Mrs. Matburn. So Jeff and Shane went to the 7A state. So we're going to do a quick preview of 7A first, and that'll probably take us about 20 minutes or so. And then luckily we have 5A and 6A coaches here, and Eric has done a lot of research and homework on the upcoming tournament, and he's ready to discuss all of his predictions. So I think that should be fun, since the rest of us probably don't know as much about 5A and 6A. So we had to bring in an all-star cast here. So Shane and Jeff, tell us about first, having the 7A by itself down at the Crossplex. So what was that like? What was the atmosphere like there?
I'll let Shane go first here.
Yeah, it was interesting. So this is my first year with a wrestler. I wasn't just in the stands spectating, cheering on the Thompson bench, but I actually had a dog in the fight. I would have liked to have known what it was like to have sectionals, to weed out some of the sheep, not to really, call anything other than what it was, is, guys with really barely, I don't even know what to call it at this stage, but guys that just snuck in as a 16 seed, just to give up a, 12, 15 second pin, and run points up for other teams is not, I don't know. I didn't like it. I would have rather had more competition. And I'm not saying my guy didn't. I think my guy had found himself in a good piece of the bracket. He was on the bottom half as the 2 seed. Had some good guys that he had to go against. Real tough Vestavia kid in the consies, in the semis.
Yeah, that went to overtime, didn't it?
That went into sudden victory. Yeah, and he battled for that match, and that got him into the finals against probably one of the best kids in the state, obviously. But he has been. He's
he is the best kid in the state, Shane.
He is.
Yeah,
Nick Smith is a great kid personally. He's a great student. He is a student of the sport as well. He came
I like
up
his dad
before,
a lot.
Yeah, he came up to me before they wrestled, and he goes, Coach, he said, he said there's Alabama wrestlers and then there's national wrestlers. He said, me and your son Nick are both national level wrestlers. He said, everybody wants to see us in the finals. And I smiled and I said, absolutely. I said, we want the best competition, and if it's you, then that's what we want. And I'm not disappointed. I think my son wrestled a great match against a really strong opponent, and I'm very proud of Nick Smith. He did a great job. Went out and put his shoes out there afterwards. We talked at the Metros. He said this was it. He was hanging it up. But and overall, just a great competition. Enjoyed it. There's always going to be some debacles here and there. We saw quite a bit from the stands that a lot of folks didn't really care for. A lot of coaches that got heated, it looked like, with some of the officiating staff. But overall, man, it's wrestling, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that we had to even have a season and to have a state championship. Love the Crossplex. I think they did a great job. It was pretty damn organized, you know. Everything is exactly what we wanted it to be. You know, we wanted to get some competition and get some wrestling in, and that was it. So we were happy. We got to sit next to the Spain Park folks, so that was really cool. We got to cheer on some of our club kids and some of the Spain Park kids, as long as they weren't wrestling any of our folks. But
Yeah, Spain Park did a great job this year. They were hanging out in third place for quite a while,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
they just dropped down to fifth or sixth. Like after Hewitt's very last match, put them into the fourth place spot, I believe.
Yep. Some really good competition, Scott. You know, I'm not gonna lie. You know, there's some underdog teams that showed up, you know, with a few kids. You know, Baker showed up from Mobile with actually quite a few kids that qualified. And you know, I've been following them now on social media, and man, their coach is all about it. You know, their kids are riled up. They're invested. You know, they just want to see the sport go down south, so that they can start, you know, wrestling more quality. And that's going to make a big deal in the the you know.
Yeah, it's
So
nice
we're
to
gonna
see
some of
those
these
teams
guys. Yeah,
from the
yeah,
south,
we're going to
like
see some of these kids coming from other areas that are
Enterprise,
top.
all those areas. Yeah.
Yep.
So
For sure.
you mentioned earlier that you know, obviously there were no sectionals this year. So I think that confused the seeding process, doesn't it? Coach Tripp, how did they handle the seeding this year?
Well, in the past, you know, sectionals has always kind of had an interesting way of doing seeding where they include head to head. Then it goes to common opponents, and then it drops to state qualifier and so on. And so a lot of it this year, you didn't realize how important being a state qualifier last year really made it. It gave a lot of kids a big advantage, and it gave ones who might have been injured last year on the 5 and 6A side of things. There's two guys off the top of my head who are probably top 5 seeds that are 10th because of not being state qualifiers last year. And so,
So what's the process for determining their seed? Is it the same criteria as it was for sectionals?
It's the exact same criteria as it was for sectionals. So it takes all the emotion out of it, which I totally get that. But at the same time, the common sense has to prevail, I think. And so there's a few weight classes where common sense is not involved at all. And I'm almost certain 7A that it happened that way too.
Yeah, if you look at the statistics for the tournament, it says, you know, and congratulations to Vestavia for getting back on top this year. But their seed to placement ratio, they were so far above everyone else, like 22 spots above their placing for the tournament. And basically one kid was responsible for 12 of it. You know, he went from 14th seed to second place. And if you look at the bracket, you know, there was some good fortune in his case, because the number 2 seed disqualified himself in the quarterfinals. So basically he got to walk into the finals. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. He had to win 2 tough matches to get there, but you know, not having to face John Robert Thompson and meet Yanni Vines in the finals, that should have been the finals as far as I was concerned, but that propelled him from a 14 seed to being a state finalist. And he didn't even place last year. He didn't even make it through sectionals last year. So it's interesting how seeding can affect it. You get on the right side of the bracket and one thing goes your way and you can make it to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But in 5A and 6A, that class is huge this year, right?
Yeah,
absolutely massive.
There's 32 qualifiers in each weight class. Is that right?
That is correct.
So before we get back onto 5A and 6A, I do want to talk a little bit more about 7A. You know, I saw that Chris Pike took his team into 3rd place. After the first day, he was down around 10th place, and I was like, what's going on?
Can I say something about Chris Pike?
Yeah,
I think that is such a huge accomplishment, because I think he may only have 1 or 2 seniors, the history that this program's had and the struggles that they've had in the past few years, the fact that they finished third might be coach of the year. That kind of big, because that's huge.
I agree with you, and it's scary that he doesn't have any seniors, because next year he's going to be challenging for a top spot. Does anyone know how many seniors Vestavia and Thompson have?
Yeah, actually, we went through, I think, and look at some of that stuff. Thompson's going to get, I think we got 2 starters that are coming on, or 3 starters that are coming off. Vestavia had a handful as well. All, small number in relevance really to what we got going on.
Not for Spain Park though. We lose 5, so we're gonna have a dry little year, but we've got a ton of sophomores. So
that's good. I'm trying to get Gabby to come back.
That's right. That's right.
She'll be a senior. I think she could win the girls' championship next year.
That's right.
So 4 for Vestavia, Scott.
Just 4?
Yeah, 4 for Vestavia, and looks like we had 3 for Thompson that are seniors.
Oh, so
hey, let me give you a little 7A recap on my end here, and then I'll shut up here. I agree with everything Shane mentioned. The tournament was really well organized, I thought. As you guys have probably seen a post regarding the medals and the podium, though, I think right up to the very end, it just fell off, right? It was pretty neat to see, the finalists at least being named before they're coming out there, but there were no podium, and someone just over the mic saying, "Hey, first and second guys, please, show up at the table to pick up your medals." That was, I think, a fumble, at least on that part. And then when I noticed, I think it was Don Harrison came up and said, "Hey, Bradley, take a look at your medal." And we look at it and we're like, 2022? What?
Right?
Yeah, and you probably saw many of the parents, mainly moms, saying, "What the hell?" Right? It's for them. It's for the kids, their recognition. The medals don't really mean much. I mean, I think Bradley lost his until late Saturday night. We didn't even want to look at it, right? But that moment in time, not being able to stand on the podium, get your picture taken, be recognized for your hard work, it just seemed as if the finals match really didn't mean that much, right? So unfortunately, hopefully, maybe they'll make a change there up in Huntsville. They have those podiums there. Maybe they'll use them. I don't know, but I hope they listen to what was posted there, because that I think was the largest mistake. Everything else I think ran perfectly. Obviously, I always say that they need healthier food in the concession stands, but they did have a breakfast bowl that was to die for, so that was good. I think Bradley gained 5 pounds throughout the tournament. So, anyways, my first time at the tournament as a parent, not a coach. It was great having Thompson right next to us, because I have so many club kids there that it made it a lot easier in that sense. I could actually sit in the stairway and cheer, amongst both of them and not get in too much trouble. But as you guys know, Bradley had a miraculous season. Unfortunately, that last match didn't pan out like he had hoped. He kind of missed our game plan that we had planned and went back to the well, with his one-hit move. So fortunately, Cam trained for it, and I'll give it to him. Positively, won the match in that sense. So I'm just glad Bradley came back and made a match out of it. So it was pretty cool. But
yeah, I know all
season. He is a 7th grader, so
all
many
season
more years
you
to come.
were kind of hoping he would lose that match before the finals, so that during the seasons, so he wouldn't get, he would learn how to cope with that, and you want to lose it during the season rather than at the last match. But he is a 7th grader, and I've known him and Cam since they were tiny little kids who didn't want to go to wrestling practice. You could see it every time they went. They didn't want to be there. And now, just something has clicked in both of them, and they're both animals that nobody wants to face. But obviously Bradley's going to probably be a several-time state champ.
One can hope. I mean, if he doesn't, he doesn't. But I mean, he's going to be in the fight for the next 5 years, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, on a side note, I'm pretty good friends with Alan Chandler. At least through text messages and such, we both respect each other's sons, tremendously. If you look back at the stats for Mac, he had 4 losses the entire year, 3 of which were to Bradley, and they were all close, except maybe the first one when Bradley got his move on him. But the other person that he lost to was a kid from Georgia, and I checked him out today. He ended up placing second at the Georgia State 4A division. So he only lost 4 matches all season, one to the number 2 kid and one to the number 2 kid over in Georgia. So pretty amazing accomplishment there. And he's only a 9th grader. So it's gonna be fun over the next few years watching these guys grow. Bradley is already growing. He's 113 pounds this evening, so he'll probably be a 20 or a 26 pounder next year. So, but anyways, great tournament. I couldn't be more happier with that. The team, Spain Park brought him in. I don't know. I was always thinking as a 7th grader, are they going to bond to him? Hell, if he's losing, probably not, right? But one win after another, you could just see these guys circling around him like big brothers. And so, in that sense, just the camaraderie and the teamwork with those guys this year was phenomenal. So, coaches were great, parents were great. They're always talking to Bradley as if he's an adult because he's so cold and non-emotional when he's wrestling and such, and has nothing to say, but he just shows it on the mat. So it's pretty cool. But looking forward to watching 5, 6A this weekend for sure.
Yeah, we'll quickly mention that Evelyn Holmes made some history from Enterprise. She came in. She won 2 matches in 7A, and she's the first female to ever win a 7A match. And she won the girls' state this year too as a 7th grader. So she's a remarkable girl. She'll probably challenge Hannah Gladden for the title of best female wrestler to come out of Alabama someday. If it's not Lena Johansson also. I mean, we have some really pretty bright girls, rising stars coming out of our state. But I was wondering what you thought was the best match other than your 2 kids in the finals.
Ooh. What was it? Well, the one that comes to mind quickly is Warren Hoyt, for sure. I mean, he just dominated. I'm like, well, it's going to be a close match, and just one takedown after another. It's like, wow. First thought was, how did this other kid get to the finals? And then I'm looking at his record. I'm like, he's actually really good. But Warren, man, just went through every one of those wrestlers, and that was pretty amazing, I thought.
And he was a number 2 seed who ended up winning state, I believe.
Yep.
I do. I have to say, I mean, I thought they did a good job there. The wrestle off that they had between Will Miller and Jack Lamy. They got the award for the best match. It was an exciting match. I'm not going to lie. Lamy's an incredible wrestler. Kid is chiseled out of stone. I mean, he is remarkable for a 10th grader. But Will Miller being Will, man, he's crafty on his feet. He doesn't let go of the bone once he sinks his teeth into it, and he did a great job. And it was probably one of the most exciting matches that we watched.
Great. Well, I can't believe we made it to the state championship after the season. I was betting that it wasn't going to happen. I know Eric came on the show a few months ago and said we probably weren't going to have a season, but we finally got here. And I don't know who to thank for it. I guess we'll thank everybody. Thanks for helping us get here. This is very exciting stuff. So we've only got 1 weekend left, 1 state championship left, and it's the biggest division in the state, 5A, 6A. So now we'll turn it over to Eric and Coach Tripp and see if they what their predictions are, see if they agree with Southeast Wrestle's rankings, and what to look for each weight class. So why don't you take it away, Eric?
So I don't know if many people know, I'm sure a lot of people probably do, but I've been kind of a big critic of the depth of wrestling in Alabama over the past couple of years. However, this year, 5 and 6A is probably the most depth I've seen maybe ever I mean, you're looking at multiple state champions, state runner-ups in every weight class. I mean, it is truly going to be a insane tournament. I hate that I'm missing it. I mean, I'm looking at one weight class in particular at 120. You have 4 state champions and 1 state runner-up. That is, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I don't know if that's ever been done, but yeah, that is crazy. So I don't know if Coach Tripp, if you wanted to go like a weight class preview or a team preview or how you wanted to go about it, but I have a bunch of notes. I have pretty much watched videos on every single wrestler at this point in 5 and 6A. A lot of it because obviously this past week, you know, with my wrestlers that are wrestling, you want to watch film on who you're going to wrestle. But I end up watching pretty much everybody's film. So
I'm good with talking about it however you want to. I know a lot of the teams. I can go through most of the weight classes, so I'm good. Whatever you want to do, man.
Okay. So yeah, I think let's start with the team race first. You know, I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. I think Gardendale's the obvious favorite if you were just looking at it objectively and just going by how many wrestlers they have qualified and just how many people that they have expected to place. With that being said, I think teams such as AHSAA, McAdory, Jasper, you know, a bunch of those teams have a really good chance to not only win and upset a lot of those favorites, but have a really solid amount of kids that are going. And, you know, the biggest thing about 5 and 6A this year is how many kids are you qualifying? You know, you're not going to win if you only qualify 8. It's not how it was when, you know, I was wrestling or anything like that. It's you got to qualify 12 to 14 kids or you're not winning a state title.
I completely agree with you. 5 and 6A is deeper. This is nothing against 7A or nothing against any of the others, but I would say this tournament is one of the toughest ever just because of the depth that you're talking about. Obviously, completely agree with you about Gardendale. They're the clear favorite, won the duels title, dominated all the way through. But I know that they've got some issues going on, and so they've kind of opened up the door for some other people. I think you're right on about AHSAA, about McAdory. I think Wetumpka could be in that mix too. I appreciate the shout out about Jasper. That I appreciate that. I hope it's true.
Qualified 11, didn't they?
Yes, sir, we did. So I appreciate that shout out. But yeah, I think Gardendale's your clear favorite right now, especially with how things have kind of gone for them this season.
Yep, 100%. I think you know, just like I said, you know, you said the shout out to you, but you're looking at all these teams that qualified 10 plus wrestlers and thinking, okay, how are we going to match up in this big bracket? You know, it's a 32-man bracket this year, and that's 5 matches. You got to have your kids wrestling 5 matches, not just 2, 3, 4, and it's over a 3-day period. So you're having to, you know, I talk to my kids a lot about how much of a roller coaster it's going to be this year with having to warm up, cool down, go into the next session, warm up, cool down, and continue that for 3 straight days. That's a lot to ask kids. And especially, you know, kids that are cutting weight and stuff.
And for the fact that we've not had any individual tournaments this year, that's going to shock a lot of kids, especially any of these younger kids are the first time state qualifiers. The Von Braun Center is a big event. You get down on that floor, it is a big scene. So if you're used to wrestling in a little high school gym, it's not the same.
Yep, and you definitely will get to see who performs well under pressure. You know, starting from the quarters and on, I mean, every match is going to be really exciting to watch. So, like I said, let's go weight by weight and just kind
Let's do
of,
it.
you know, I think you pretty much know. I'll kind of list the seeds and then maybe some dark horses. I won't necessarily touch on my predictions too much. I'll bring a little bias into my predictions. But I will give you some early matchups to maybe look out for those people in 7A or 1 through 4A that don't really know a lot of these kids. So at 106, you have the number 1 seed Brody Christmas from Mortimer Jordan. You have Peter Henderson, a returning state champ from McAdory. At the number 2 seed, you have Preston Jones from Alexandria. He's undefeated currently. I've actually watched him in person. He's a really good wrestler. You have David Miguel, the number 4 seed from Fort Payne. Some of my dark horses for that weight class would be John Stewart from Scottsboro. The only time I ever watched Preston Jones was a 1-point match against John Stewart. You have Kel Tucker from Chelsea, who is also a really solid wrestler. And then the number 5 seed, Ramon Lozada. All of those wrestlers are really solid. If I had to predict, I would say after watching him through film and other stuff, I'd say Peter Henderson is my favorite.
Ooh,
So
I like it. That's bold. I'm going to have to go the opposite. I'm going to have to go Brody Christmas. I do think Henderson and Christmas meet in the finals. I believe that Henderson is lost to Christmas this year. I don't know what the score was. But I know that Henderson lost to Christmas last year too during the season. So I think that'd kind of be in the back of his mind. And so I think Brody Christmas, the 9th grader against the 12th grader, I think he pulls out the win.
Yep. That's you can't go wrong either way with the 1 or 2 seed. They're always going to be.
That's an easy guess.
A really matchup to watch would be Ramon Lozado versus Michael Yafando. I think they meet in the quarters. Both have only lost like 1 or 2 times this year.
Yeah.
I think Lozado's 18-1. I think that'd be a really good matchup to watch early. And if Lozado's going to make a run, it's probably going to start by beating him. That's pretty much all I got for 106.
How crazy is it that in 106 you've got one 12th grader, a couple 11th graders, and then pretty much 10th and under? I'm shocked there's a senior in the 106 weight class.
I'm seeing that David Miguel is his 12th grader.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
two seniors.
Yeah, 2 seniors.
As someone who
Hey, and I can add some commentary to this as well. As Eric mentioned with John Stewart, Bradley's wrestled him a couple of times. I think last year during the Christmas time frame in youth, they went to overtime and John Stewart had won. But if he's got his gas tank, which he's been wrestling all season now, he will be one to watch out for. He'll bracket bust some of these guys for sure. I've seen him wrestle without a gas tank, and I wouldn't have said that, but knowing he's back to wrestling full time now, it's going to be interesting. Like you said, the 3 through 5 seed for sure. I mean, those guys, I don't know them, but I've seen and heard about them, and so there's going to be some interesting fireworks here in the semifinals and quarterfinals for sure. So, but after about 10, it drops off pretty quickly. But Kale getting the 10th seed and Trey getting the 7th seed. It's almost, they should have been flipped in that sense, but they're going to have to battle it out, and however they end up on the consolation side or whoever does, it's going to be interesting to see who has a chance at placing, because they're going to knock each other out at some point. So,
Right.
but very strong bracket for sure. I'm really interested in watching that, not because I have a 106 pounder, but all those guys are really good. So,
And last year as an 8th grader, Brody Christmas and PJ Henderson actually matched up twice, and they split wins. Earlier in the season, PJ, hands down, did a good job. Brody prepared for him, and he came back and he ended up sticking PJ. That was PJ's only loss last year. And PJ was, he was doing a lot of all-season wrestling to win that state championship last year. We didn't see him around too much this year in the off-season. And it shows. He's a natural athlete. He knows what he's doing out there, but Brody he's a planner, and he's very prepared. I watched them at a Mountain Brook tournament. Brody looked very good. His confidence was very high wrestling PJ. They went into sudden victory, and I mean, Brody he was just fine. He was comfortable in all positions. So it's going to be 106 is going to be a fun bracket to watch.
mm-hmm.
For sure. As a former 106, it will always be my favorite weight class. As a perennial lightweight, it'll always be one of my favorites. So moving on to 113, you have Heinz Duncan, former state runner-up at 18-0, as the number 1 seed. You have Will Anderson from Athens at 23-1, 8th grader. You have Hudson Waldrop McAdory. I've watched him a few times this year, and he's very impressive. You have Deshaun Powell from Gardendale, who I've also watched this year, who's also impressive. And then my dark horse is Ethan Caldwell. He got 5th last year at state. Another solid wrestler. As far as predictions, I think we're going to see a Hudson Waldrop, Deshaun Poe matchup in the finals. I watched them actually wrestle at AHSAA, and it was a very, very good match. I do think that Hines Duncan is a very good wrestler, but those Poe brothers from Gardendale, all three of them, are super impressive and
Ridiculous.
kind of how you were saying, Dempsey, with just preparation. I feel like those three are going to be prepared.
Yeah, completely agree with you about the Poe boys. I can't imagine having a family like that on your team. They're all just incredible wrestlers, incredible athletes. It's awesome. Will Anderson is ridiculous. I know that. So I am really curious about that side of the bracket, being that I have a kid on that side of the bracket who will have hopefully get to Hudson Waldrop in the quarters. So that's going to be tough. But I agree with you on the top end. I think Poe's got a great spot right there. I think he's wrestled a lot of different teams where I don't know about Pike Road if they've wrestled the quality teams like Gardendale has.
Yep, I 100% agree. And I think, when you're looking at making a deep state run, you really want to be tested earlier in the season rather than waiting around till it's the state tournament, for sure. Early match watch for me would be Jack Cyrus versus Jamal Whittington. One of the, I think, first or second round. I can't remember if it's first or second round match off the top of my head.
Second.
But that's all I got. Second round. But that's my preview for the 113 town weight class.
Good deal.
Oh yeah, and before we get into the 120, because I'm obviously going to be biased here. Anything that I say in any of these weight classes are obviously my opinion. And although I've watched film on everybody, it's the state tournament. Anything can happen. And if you're a wrestler watching this, as someone who used to be on the forums and like all the trash talk, embrace it with me. Use it as motivation. So at 120, this is by far my favorite weight class. It is absolutely stacked. I'm about to list 7 wrestlers who I think all have a genuine shot at winning. And could be in the finals. So first you have AHSAA Poe, obviously Gardendale, 28-0, state champ. Watched him wrestle, super impressive. His single legs are out of this world. Lincoln Bryant from Hartselle, I've also had the opportunity to watch him wrestle this year. Former state champ as well, really solid from his feet. Jacob Holland from AHSAA, another former state champion. Yeah, it's like murderer's row here at 120. And then Tyreek Sims, Jemison, 26-3, also a former state champ, state runner-up. Then you have Sandlin Pike at the 5th seed, who is a state runner-up from last year at 106. And then you have about 4 kids who I think can be bracket busters. You have Parker Dodd from Moody, Graham Miner from Homewood, Andrew Maxwell from Athens, who had a really great match that I got to watch with our guy. And Brody Early, who I've seen a couple times this year from McAdory, who is also a stud. So I have 2 different predictions. I have my biased predictions for this one, and then I have my non-biased predictions. My biased predictions is that my kid is going to win. And that's my biased prediction. But the realistic prediction that I'd make would have to be AHSAA Poe winning with I think Jacob Holland coming in second. I think he's really solid on top. He learns he's really developed how to turn people on top over the past couple of years. He does a really good job at that. And I actually have Brody Early from McAdory slipping in at the 6th, and then a couple other people filling in there. So, Coach Tripp, what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen AHSAA Poe many, many times, and he's ridiculous. So I think he's the champ until someone knocks him off, basically. That side of the bracket is tough, man. And so I think Poe gets to the finals, and I actually think I agree with you on Holland getting there. I think his experience is gonna get him past Lincoln Bryant, and that'll be the final right there.
Yeah,
I have a question about 120. According to Southeast Wrestle, they have Deshaun Poe at 120 and AHSAA at 126. Is that flipped?
No, they dropped.
Yeah, they all
They
dropped.
both dropped. Okay. And that leads me to my next question is, Is 120 so stacked because Corey Land is at 126?
100%.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
That's a softball question, Scott.
Yep, absolutely.
Everyone's running
when
from
you
Corey Land. No one wants a piece of him.
Yeah, when you have 4 state champions and multiple state runner-ups, state placers in one weight class, it's usually to avoid somebody else at a very, very close weight class.
Right. And you were
Yeah,
telling me
I'm-
before the show started that if you want to come in second place in 5A or 6A, go to 126.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You were, I want to touch on some early matchups for 120 before we move on to 26, even though 26 will go pretty quick. Graham Minor and Brody Early meet in, I think, the second round. That is going to be a huge matchup for both of them moving forward. I watched Brody Early wrestle Deshaun Poe, and he was actually winning that match. And there were some other circumstances that happened around that match, but super close. I think that's somebody who could be a bracket buster right there. And then Land Bell and Parker Dodd. Land Bell's actually only lost one match. I haven't actually had a chance to watch him wrestle, but I just feel like that's probably an early one that we should keep our eye on.
Right. Yeah, Cross is well known for hitting just big payout moves. He's good in space. He's good up close and tight. He just seems to find, he finds things, and he's got great balance and strength. And man, guys, I'm telling you, this is Alabama, but if I was in Iowa or Ohio or Pennsylvania, I'd be watching this bracket all day long. I mean, there's nothing but talent in this 120 weight class.
Yep. If I was a college coach watching this right now and you want a 125-pounder, I would be looking right at this bracket.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And it's hard to think MOW doesn't come from this bracket. I know Corey Land's Corey Land, but how does MOW not come from here?
Yep. So moving on to 126, obviously we have Corey Land, 39-0. I mean, arguably could possibly be one of the greatest wrestlers that will come out of Alabama. Obviously there's a lot that goes into that, but so far he's had an excellent career. I've known Corey since he started wrestling, so been really, really excited to watch his career. The number 2 seed, Blaylock from Fort Payne. Number 3 seed, Clinton Stewart from Scottsboro. 4 seed, Byerman from Chelsea. And I think Corey wins it. I think my number 2 would actually be Clinton Stewart from Scottsboro. I've watched him wrestle a few times. He's very solid. Do I think that he can beat Corey Land? I mean, anybody can be beat, but it's going to be a tall task. And then my early matchup to watch would be Gunnar Birdsong from Athens versus William Miller. I think that's going to be a really excellent first-round matchup. I've watched Birdsong, really solid from his feet, really smart wrestler.
I'm really curious about Butler. I think he's a really good wrestler. So Butler, when he meets Blaylock in the quarters, I'm excited to watch that one. I think he's going to be I would love for my kid to beat Butler. First, let me say that. He matches up with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also a realistic person on occasion, and that's going to be one to watch if it happens.
For sure. I think we all, as coaches, obviously we're biased, but we definitely have to be realistic in some cases, for sure. So moving on to 132, because like I said, 126 is pretty quick. We have a really tough weight class too. I think this is a sleeper weight class because of the seeding. I think you already had brought up Jacob Deese from Southside Gadsden. But we also have Ryan Summerlin, another state champion. You have Wanagot from Pelham, runner-up. And a few other wrestlers. Aiden Whitaker from Alexandria, I think, is someone to watch for. Thomas Rackler from Scottsboro, someone to watch for. But this weight class is surprisingly deep in terms of, I think, very similar skill level. So I think it'll make for a lot of interesting matchups. You might not have like the superstar talent that 120 has, but you definitely have the firepower here in terms of quality matchups.
Yeah, I completely agree with Deese being a 2-time state champ, not wrestling last year. That took away the state qualifier status, and so he gets the 10th seed, which is insane. That's where I was talking about the common sense has gone out the window. So in the quarters, potentially you could have Deese, a 2-time state champ, against Wanagot, a state runner-up, in the quarters. And so that's going to be exciting. I know that Wygot's probably not real happy about it to have that match in the quarters, but it's part of it.
And we watched them wrestle all summer long in the club. So I mean, it's going to be fireworks. I mean, it's going to be interesting. They know each other. Yeah. What's that?
I said if you had to predict then, because I haven't actually had a chance to watch Jacob Deese wrestle.
Oh God, as a club coach, you know what we say? We're not coaching you guys. And when you go to the second period, you're both going up. There's no top and bottom riding. We're both going neutral. So I'd have to go with the takedown king. And the thing is, I mean, Bryce has got a fireman to die for, man. And so he'll hit you when you're not thinking about it. He's hitting me. I'm like, oh, you're a little guy. You can't hit me with a fireman. And next thing I know, my legs are going over the top of me. Whereas Deese is, out from space on his shots and such. So it's going to be interesting. I'd say it's going to go to the third period, and whoever has the heart at the end is probably going to win it. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. It's so close. I wouldn't. I don't know if I could pick one.
You're not saying sudden victory, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So in that same light, though, do you think? I mean, obviously everybody has a chance. Do you think anyone is upsetting Ryan Summerlin this year?
Well, I saw Deese and go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Selfishly, I think my boy Manny Havis. He's like my son. I think he upsets Deese. I think he upsets not Deese. Sorry, Summerlin in the semis.
Wow. No, I saw Summerlin and Deese go at it when we were up in Southside, and they went to I guess it was 2-0 or 2-1 or something like that. So that's going to be a close one too. It's going to come down to who has the most offense in that match, really.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right, and now we go to 138. 138, you have Kyler Adams from Wetumpka, a third-place finisher from last year. You have Melton Poe, the third of the Poe brothers, at 28-2, a state runner-up from last year. You have Patrick Lawler from Arab, Jake McDonald from Athens, Evan Phillips from Hayden, Cole Bates is 8-0 from Mountain Brook. I haven't actually had a chance to watch him either, but he's 8-0. I figured that's somebody to watch for. Brody Mizzle from St. Clair County at 28-1. And all of those guys, I think, are really solid. I don't think this is necessarily the deepest weight class we have this year. However, I do think that any of the top three have a really good chance at winning. If I had to place my money on it, I would bet Melton Poe. But Kyler Adams, obviously, very solid wrestler from Wetumpka. And Wetumpka always seems to step it up at the state tournament. So,
yeah.
Kyler Adams is a very tough guy to wrestle, especially at 138. He is so long. And even with Melton's a pretty long kid too, but he doesn't really compare. And I think that's how Kyler beat Melton when they wrestled at the state duels. He's just got so much length on him and keeps that space. So it's going to be interesting again. I would like to see. I like the Po boys a lot. I've known them for a while, so I'd like to see Melton win that one. I think it'd be great to go for that to happen for him. But Kyler's the clear one right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see Kyler leaving his senior year as the champion. Eric, I like how you mentioned you were going from, Kyler Adams to Milton Poe. You didn't hit the 3 seed. You went right to Jake McDonald, the 14. Dude, you talk about a bracket buster, man. I know he's a multi-sport kid, but my son used to wrestle him in youth. He's a very, very good athlete. He's strong. He's another one that looks like he's just been chiseled, man. I mean, he's going to go out there and shock a lot of kids. I think he may pull off the upset of a lifetime and pull a Lincoln Bryant from last year. I think a lot of people underestimated Lincoln. Lincoln's a strong kid. He went out there and wrestled Milton and took a championship out of it. I can see Jake finding his way into the semis and possibly the finals.
Yep, 100%. Like I said, I think any of the 4 kids at the top, in most weight classes, you have your clear favorites, and some of them you have, 5, 6, 7 kids. But in this one, I think any of the 4 kids at the top have a really good chance of at least making it to the finals. And as all of you know, anything can happen in a finals match. I've seen some crazy stuff. So at that point, you just let them wrestle, and whoever's better that day wins. Anything else about 138 before we move to 145? Nope. Okay.
You good?
So 145, we have Chase Hicks from Oxford, former state champion. You have Gray Ortis from Mountain Brook, former state champion from 7A, coming down this year. You have Gabe Warren from Spanish Fort, a former state champion. So you get all 3 state champions from different classifications coming to 145 this year. And then also you add in Xander McWilliams from Wetumpka, who was a third-place finisher. And this makes for another super deep weight class. I actually have no predictions for this weight class. Looking objectively, I would like to think that the 7A state champ from last year will be the favorite. Just because of the typical 7A is usually a little tougher to win. But this year, it's going to be interesting with all those kids. I think Chase Hicks is a very, very good wrestler. He's very game. I've not had a chance to watch Great Ortis, but obviously to win state in 7A, it's tough.
Yeah, I'm going to have to obviously the top 3 right there are ridiculous. I'm going to have to get the edge to Great Ortis again with you, 7A state champ. And I've actually not – when we went over Mountain Brook, he didn't wrestle that night, but I've just heard he is an absolute monster. And so that would be my favorite, even though he's not the 1 seed.
Yeah, I did get to watch Gray wrestle this season. Unfortunately, it was his only loss, which was to Thompson's James Latona. But, you know, we did watch him in early season wrestling that we had hosted in our duels for Southeast Pools. You know, there was nobody standing in front of Gray. He didn't wrestle Latona at that time, but Gray looked real good. And I'm kind of with you guys. I agree. I think he puts this one in the bag.
Yep. An early matchup to watch for me would be McWilliams versus Louis Sanchez from Gardendale. Sanchez is a very solid wrestler. I think that could make for an interesting matchup. I don't know if they've wrestled this year or not. I didn't do enough research on that, but that definitely seems to be one of the early matchups to watch. Moving into 152. Now, this is actually an interesting weight class because, once again, the seeds didn't work in the favor for some people, and they worked better for others. You have Jaden New, a returning multiple-time state champion, as the number 2 seed, even with an undefeated record. And then you have Donald Phillips from McAdory, who was I want to say, third-place finisher from last year.
State champ last year.
Oh, he was a state champ last year. Okay.
Yes, he was down, I think, 10-2, and I think was it against Hicks maybe, and he ends up tossing him to his back and sticks him in the state finals.
Gotcha. So Donald Phillips, state champ. I've seen him wrestle. Actually, super long kid. He looked really good when they wrestled Gardendale from what I was watching. You have Kendrick Young at the 3 seed, state placer from last year. Really, really solid on his feet. Number 4 seed is Gabe Sweat from Buckhorn. And then you have Keenan Wyatt from Gardendale, who got 6th last year, who is a sleeper. And then you also have Evan Scrivener from St. Clair County, who I think got 3rd last year in 1 through 4A. Really tall kid. I'm really high on him. I've watched his film a couple times. I think he's a pretty solid wrestler. I think Jaden New is the clear favorite. After that, I think any of the people I mentioned have a really good chance to make it at the finals.
Yeah, Jaden New's your clear 1. I think what got him is obviously they don't have a head-to-head, so common opponents. LaDonald has more matches, which gives him that edge. Both state champions. That's kind of how that worked out. But I think Jaden's your clear 1. LaDonald is an upper body kid. He wants to go upper body stuff, and so that's what ended up happening to him last year. He was getting whooped and ends up tossing him. But I think Jaden New's your clear 1. I'll be curious to see if LaDonald makes it to the finals again with Sweat right there, Scrivener, even the Pike Road kid Todd at 18-1. You got an 18-1 and a 26-1 first round matchup with Scrivener and Todd. You're going to have some really good matches here. And Keenan White.
That was my early match to watch was Scrivener versus Todd. You have 2 kids that have only had 1 loss, and one of them has to lose here. So you got to be ready for that first matchup. But yeah, like I've wrestled Jaden New a couple times actually, and he is a very, very solid wrestler. Very tough to take down. He's a little bigger than me, but he's very, very tough to take down. So I can't imagine it's going to be easy for anybody to beat him this year. At 160, you have Jacob Chisholm from Oxford, former state champ. Carson Kim from Gardendale at 21-1. The number 3 seed, Raphael, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but he is also undefeated at 20-0.
Hippolito.
Or 20. Hippolito. You have Jason Minshew at 23-2. You have the other Scrivener brother from St. Clair County who got 5th last year as a sleeper pick, and also Aiden Knight from McAdory at 37-7. Also a really long wrestler, really solid.
Good dark
I think my favorite would be Chisholm. I have to give him the edge, and I actually think Hippolito has a good chance to beat Carson Kim. Carson Kim has, at least from my perspective, had some knee injuries, I think. He's wearing a huge brace on it. I feel like that, if you're not 100% at the state tournament, it's very tough to win. I still think he's a very solid wrestler. I know him and his family for a long time. But once again, to beat these top level wrestlers in this bracket, you got to be 100%.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'll go after you.
Yeah, so I agree about Chisholm being the returning champ. I think he's going to destroy the top part of the bracket. I just think he's really, really good. And then the semifinals on the bottom, and I think Hippolito gets there with Kim, and that is going to be a match to watch. I think they're both really good wrestlers. It's going to be a coin flip for me on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to give you guys some inside knowledge here. So Raphael is a 5-time Kids Pan Am Jiu-Jitsu champ. This is his first year wrestling. And if you've watched him, you see he's a takedown master, right? And the reason he's a takedown master is if he stays down too long, he's going to lock hands. And so he's cutting you every time. I think he's going to figure that out, that he actually can ride someone if he needs to. But for the most part, he's just there to take you down. And he is quick. He is lightning quick. This summer, he was a little overweight. He hadn't been doing any jiu-jitsu and such. But if you see him now, I mean, he's come down in weight, and he is very, very fast. So he's going to it's nice to see that he finally got the recognition that he needs at the 3 seed. I mean, they had him down at 5 or 6 early in the season, and I was watching going, wow, he's going to blow this thing up here. Yeah, I think you guys got it right. Jacob's going to walk to the finals and, come down to that semifinal match with Kim and Hippolito. So it should be fun to watch. That's the one match out of the entire tournament I want to see that one. So it should be good.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I didn't know his background. That's awesome. That he's first year wrestler, 20-0, takedown specialist. I love that. I'll be interested to see all the different takedowns that he comes up with. That's fun to.
Oh, it's some funky stuff. If you've watched him wrestle, it's pretty funky. So.
That's awesome.
He's got even a better guard game.
170. Now this is my second favorite weight class. Once again, I'm biased because I have another kid in here. At the 1 seed, you have Caleb Rowe, a returning state runner-up from ARAB. You have Preston Reed from Jasper, a former state champ last year. At the 2 seed, at 3 seed, you have Seth Branham, another state runner-up from last year from Pelham. You have Luke Jasper from Mortimer Jordan at the 4 seed. He's a third-place finisher from last year. You have Jason Finley, another state runner-up from last year who lost to Reed 2-1 last year in the finals. You have Derek Warvick from 4th. He got 4th last year from Gardendale. You have Troy Gibson from Satsuma, who's sitting at 22-0 at the bottom half. That's a potential bracket buster. And then you have Warren Williams. Yep. And then you have Warren Williamson from Spanish Fort at 24-3, who's a senior, who's also another bracket buster. If I had to pick my favorite, it would be a toss-up, to be honest, between Rowe and Reed. Having watched a lot of film on both of them, it's going to be a very close match. They both wrestle 2 different styles. I think that Gibson has a really good chance to beat Branham in the quarters, and I think that Finley has a really good chance of beating Jasper in their quarters as well. I think this is going to be an interesting bracket to turn out for sure.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you. The top 8 seeds are all really good wrestlers. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased with Reed being the 2 seed and a former state champ. So I do believe that he makes it there. This is not an easy road because he's either going to have to wrestle Bynum or he's going to have to wrestle Williamson, who have 4 losses together. So it's not like it's going to be easy there. So and then he's going to have to wrestle either Branham or who was the other one you said, Gibson, who have 2 losses together. So I mean, it's a tough bracket. And so, but I think Preston and Caleb get to the finals with each other.
Yep. Yeah, my biased self wants to say that my guy makes it there, but
Absolutely.
we'll see. We'll have to see. So moving on to 182, we have Carnell Davis from Southside Gadsden, 42-3, former state champ. At the 2 seed, you have Mason Blackwell, undefeated, from Wetumpka, also a returning state champ. At the 3 seed, you have Preston Royster from Chelsea at 20-1. At the 4 seed, you have Holyfield from Oxford at 22-8. He's a former 4th place finisher. Then you have Kennedy Wyatt, another Wyatt brother from Gardendale, at the 5th seed, or sorry, not the 5th seed, but returning 5th place placer. And then also you have Moises Sanchez. He was a former state qualifier. He's 21-2. He's also in that bracket. My predictions is that Blackwell will win it. I have not had the chance to see Carnell Davis wrestle this year. But both of them, I think, being seniors, this will be a very interesting matchup. I think it could go either way. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so obviously Moises Sanchez is my guy right there, and he matches up with Davis in the quarters. So if he can upset Davis, then I will be a happy man. But if I'm just looking at this from a non-bias, I've watched Carnell wrestle. I've watched Blackwell wrestle. I actually am going to give the edge to Carnell just because I know Blackwell's been struggling with a shoulder injury. He was wearing a brace in the state duels finals against Gardendale, and then he ripped it off at one point. He got thrown to his back. So I think that's going to give him some trouble. So I think Preston Royster actually could push through him in the semifinals, just depending on how the tournament goes for him.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting one to watch for sure. Anytime you have 2 state runner-ups and a bunch of placers, once again, it makes for interesting matchups, especially early. Like you said, you're looking at quarters matchups thinking, wow, this is really somebody who could bust a bracket. And, I don't know if you saw that necessarily at 1 through 4A or 7A, just because of kind of how Shane was saying, like some of the 16th seeds or whatever, they weren't really game for, the James Latonas, the Bradley Williams, any of those people. They weren't, up for that. Moving on to 195, you have Drake Ewing, state runner-up from last year, who's a senior. You have Crocker from Homewood at 19-0, who's also a senior. You have McKinnon from Mountain Brook, 31-0, who's also a senior. And then the 4th seed, you have Logan Thomas, 26-2 from Corner. A bracket buster for me would be Jonathan Pugh from Arab at 39-3. I think he's a very solid wrestler. This is an interesting bracket. You have a couple undefeated wrestlers that are going to potentially match up in the semis, and somebody has to lose. Once again, I'm going to lean towards 7A dropping down to 5 to 6A, and I'm going to go with McKinnon in that matchup. And I think it's a toss-up in the finals.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to agree with you. I just think coming from 7A down to 5A, 6A, we've got more, or quantities more. The quality up in 7A might be a little better there. So I think I'm going to agree with you on McKinnon pulling this thing out.
Well, another thing to note here, just like 182, your top 4 seeds here are all seniors. So there's a lot on the line for these guys. They don't want to finish off their last season of wrestling in high school, as a finalist or a 3rd or 4th place, runner-up. They want to be on the top of the podium. So I think these last 2 weight classes, man, there's going to be a lot of pushing. These guys are going to be battling hard, so they should be good.
Yep. 100. And you add in the fact that you have an undefeated season already, and you've already put in so much work, and then you add on top of it that you're a senior, and then you're wrestling another senior who's also undefeated. So it's like, I can't imagine the pressure that's going to be built up for some of these kids as you look forward to this bracket.
Yeah.
And how about this? down here on Ledbetter and Crocker, first round, you got a 15-2 versus a 19-0. This is the kid who's 31st. The 31st seed is 15-2.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
there are a lot of weight classes where the seating was interesting. I'll say I'm trying to refrain from complaining too much, but it definitely was not favorable to not have a sectional tournament. You know, obviously that's the easiest way to tell you who should be in and who should not be in is to let them wrestle. So when you're going by computer, a computer doesn't necessarily pass the eye test for a lot of these wrestlers, and that's kind of how it went this year.
Most definitely.
Right.
Yeah. And back to what Coach Tripp was saying, you know, I think health is going to play a lot in the factor. You know, guys got a little shoulder injury, a knee's just not right, something happened. You know, that's a big deal. I mean, you know, number one, you're already tight walking into the state tournament. So any little thing that is off, you know, could have a big impact on how you're performing. So.
Yep, 100%.
For 220, Eric.
Moving to 220, we have Riley Kuhn from Fort Payne at 18-0. I think he was a state runner-up last year, if I'm not mistaken. You have Abe Preston from Wetumpka at 25-2. If I can read my hand right.
Mm-hmm.
At the 3 seed, you have Matt Brown at 18-0. At the 4 seed, you have Colby Clark. He's 16-2 from Scottsboro. And then some of my dark horses, I have Cole Fuller from Gardendale at 15-1. And I have Elijah Trejo from Homewood, or Elias Trejo from Homewood. He's 23-1 as well. I think Kuhn is obviously my favorite. It'll be interesting to see the matchup with Brown and Preston. And Fuller could be a bracket buster as well. I think he's a very solid wrestler. I think there's a lot of upside. And once again, it's a state tournament, so you never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Cooney's your clear favorite. I'll be interested to see, you know, if Brown gets to the semis, because I don't know who they've wrestled. I'm just looking on here. There's a few guys down there with some pretty solid records as well. So the bottom part of this bracket is going to be really, really fun to watch.
It definitely is. And that kind of goes to, as the South is still growing and wrestling, a lot of times you see where they're wrestling the same people over and over. And so the records will be a little different than someone who's been wrestling, you know, in the Birmingham metro area for an entire season. And once again, like I said earlier, you'd rather be tested a little later or a little earlier in the season rather than a little later. So when you look at somebody that's 18-0, you really got to look at the quality of opponents, you know, and that's once again why a sectionals tournament would have been more beneficial than
definitely thins it out and puts them in order.
Yeah. So at 285, we have Dylan Daring, 18-0, and he actually won a 2-1 matchup over the number 2 seed Isaiah Williams from Clay Chalkwell. I think that's Clay Chalkwell at 24-2. You have Demaria Jones from Center. He's 6-2 this year, but he was actually got third last year. You have Judson Kramer, or is it Cromer, from Alexandria, 24. You have David Griffin from Brookwood at 20-0, which is an impressive record. CJ Williams from Springville at 33-1. Once again, at 33-1, I would have to go back and look at all his matchups. If you're from the South, that's one of my rules that I usually have for people that wrestle down south. And then Damian Lowry from Russell, he got fifth last year. He could also be a bracket buster. However, I think that you will see an exciting finish to our state tournament with Daring and Williams in the finals. A 2-1 match shows that they're both game, and you know, it's just a matter of who can put it together for that last match.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on the Daring and Williams final, but I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say it's going to be Williams from Springville. And the reason why is Williams from Springville pinned Williams from Clay Chalkwell the last time they wrestled. So that being said, I think that I'm going to go bold here on the final weight class, and I'm going to say Williams from Springville makes the finals. I think Daring probably still wins it. He is a monster, but yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and luckily for everybody watching or everybody that will watch this, the good thing is that all of our predictions will probably be wrong. So you can sit here and you can make 100 different brackets. You know, you look at a weight class like the 120 weight class, it's like literally any kid could win. So we just get to sit back and kind of enjoy this monster of a tournament. I think that is 5 and 6A this year.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'm 100 times more excited than I was before this call started. I really didn't know a lot of these weight classes and these kids in 5A, but now I have something to look forward to. I didn't realize how deep it was until you got into the detail of every single one of these weight classes.
It's exciting. It's a bigger bracket, and like they said, I mean, it's deeper for sure. But some of those top matches, I mean, it's just rock solid. I mean, there's hard to find any cracks in the top 5 or top 6 of these guys. So it's going to come down to who comes to wrestles, right?
I'd say the only thing that the tournament is missing is mat burn coverage. Not quite sure why we haven't gotten the call yet, but you know, we're still
can't handle the burn. They can't handle the burn.
I will say that I think that you know, as we look to Alabama, we're going to need more coverage like this. We're going to need more reviews, more people that are, you know, almost journalists in a sense, but people that are actually heavily involved, that understand the sport, that understand what they're talking about, can do things like this, that kind of, you know, give people something to look forward to. You know, like you said, some people in 7A might not know how deep the 5 and 6A bracket was this year, and now they can maybe look out for it. And especially back next year, getting coverage for the state tournaments on a national level is huge. It would be huge for people to quit playing football and start wrestling.
That's right.
Well, Jeff has taken on the role of our HR department, and he's been recruiting. So we're looking to expand to anyone who wants to join the mat burn team, who's in other parts of the state, who can help us out cover those areas. The pay is fantastic. We all make the same amount. We had someone complain during the youth state tournament that we weren't earning our money, which is hysterical since we volunteered that day for like 16 hours straight. So,
Oh, and if you haven't noticed yet, guys, I mean, one of our hot spots of where we like to broadcast from is a local brewery here in Alabama. You know, we're looking for anything and everything and any reason to get out there and talk about.
We'll travel to breweries across the state
if
we have to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now we think that this show really belongs to all the wrestling community and not to us. And so anyone who wants to come on and talk about their kid or their team or their tournament or their camp, you know, just drop us a note. We'd be glad to do it.
Yeah. I had a comment from a few parents that when we were commentating, I think it was an Oak Mountain Middle School tournament or something like that. A couple of these parents, they don't know wrestling that well here in the state of Alabama, right? So as we're commentating and mentioning, hey, that was 2 takedown, or he's going to get the inside wrist here, he's going to try and do a cheap tilt there, they start learning those terms, and it's no longer grab them, stick them, throw them up. They're actually understanding that there are terms to this. Cow catcher might not be a cow catcher here or a bulldog there, right? But they start using some of the proper terms, and they understand what the point system actually is. So it's pretty neat to hear that. And so I think having this COVID season, some folks aren't able to get out. If they're able to see it and still participate and understand and learn, I think that's great. So.
Yeah, the one thing I love about Coach
it's a blast for us
is that he understands that in a tough year like this, that the coverage really helps his team out, and it helps his team's families out who can't make it to the tournament. And we had a few false starts before we were able to get out there because of the COVID, kept canceling all of his matches. But he's very persistent and asked us to come out, and Mr. Wanagat and I and his assistant covered that, and I had a ton of fun. I would love to do it again.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys coming out, and you're invited anytime.
We
uninvited.
We do like talking wrestling. I know we had all talked, the three of us, Scott, Jeff, and myself, and Greg Hussey, who didn't join us tonight. But our plan was to do a follow-up after the 7A. We probably, will definitely confirm we're doing a follow-up after 5 and 6A. Love to have you guys back on it. We talk a lot about, you know, the importance of club wrestling in the off season, in Greco and freestyle. You know, we're not one dimensional. We're looking to broaden the sport. Always looking to find, you know, not just school coaches, other club coaches, you know, get them in contact with us, man. We'll be happy to come out and do a spotlight with them. You know, even if it's 20 to 30 minutes to talk about their program, just because it, you know, gives it that much more momentum in the area. You know, some of these smaller towns in Alabama, I mean, they're trying, you know, like I said, we had Baker come up from Mobile. You know, we got to get traction here in the state. I know, you know, they're talking about finally getting wrestling in Mississippi. You know, so, I mean, there's just little things that I guess we can do as we start to get traction and momentum. You know, things will start to take off. And Jeff, man, I agree with you. You know, parents are scared. They don't know the lingo. You know, they know what a first down is. They know what a touchdown is. You know, they're terrified of wrestling because the kid has to wear that thing and they don't know anything about the points. You know, I've had to, you know, put the pacifier in a few parents, like the singlet is just part of wrestling. It's not required. They can wear, you know, competition gear if they want to wear that. But, you know, I don't care how big your kid is. At some point, he's going to see the other wrestlers wearing a singlet and he's going to be proud to wear it. The only thing we don't wear here on the show is robes. It's just never going to happen. Maybe in some 7A schools, just not here. So.
I want to take a moment to promote an event that is coming up because Wetumpka sent it to us at Wetumpka CrossFit, March 20th. Jane Dodgens, who's the Bruton Parker women's head coach, is going to be running a camp there. And he was a two-time NAIA champ and a two-time Michigan State champ, one-time state placer. So, you know, I think that's a great opportunity for our wrestlers to get out there and learn from another great coach. And anytime anyone has an event that they need to promote, we'll do our best to get it out there.
Yeah, also remind you guys, Alabama, March 6th. You know, so there's the one tournament where we can say, hey, there's no divisions, everyone's equal, bring them out, right? So we can't do that with Alabama High School State, but we can definitely do it with the Battle of Alabama. You know, everyone able to come. There's, you know, the kids side of the tournament, and then there's 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th, and 11th and 12th. You can wrestle your kids in multiple brackets. So if you want to test them out in high school, go for it. If you want to keep them down at the 7th and 8th grade, go for it. I'll probably put Bradley in all three just to see how he fares. I don't know. You know, it's all about mat time, and you can there, you know, rightly say you are the best in Alabama if you win that bracket. You just got to come there, though. You got to make sure you wrestle. So
do we have a
hope to see it
location
grow.
for that yet,
It's grown over the years. Say it again, Chad?
Do we have a location for that event yet?
I have not seen the location yet. I just saw it posted on track, so it definitely was March 6th.
Okay.
And there's a girls division this year.
Yeah. What's that called? Super State? Is that what we're calling it?
It's Super State for the youth, and it's Battle of Bama for the high school.
Right. Is that just the top two, or is that any high school kid can go?
Anyone.
Okay.
Yep, anyone can go.
I just wanted to, before we get off, I wanted to say I had an NAIA coach actually message me that he knows about this show. So you guys are doing a great job with it. And he was actually he was asking about recruiting, you know, at the state tournament this weekend and stuff. And so if you're watching this, you know who you are. But I just thought it was interesting that I was like, I'm going to be on this podcast tonight. Matt Byrne, he's like, oh, I know what that is. So, you know, I think, like I said, in terms of promoting the sport, you guys keep doing what you're doing. It's definitely
That's
getting
great.
out there.
All right. Well, let us know if you're watching by subscribing to our YouTube channel. You know, we need to get that up to the mandatory number of 1,000. Once you get 1,000, you can embed the video into the website, so that way we could get all the mats on one page. That would be nice if we could get up to 1,000, and then we could monetize it. But you know, those are probably that's not our goal or why we do it, but it might pay for like a microphone cord or something. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. This has been Matt Byrne, and don't forget to watch at the 5A 6A championship on Track Wrestling. You can sign up and watch it there. It's not too expensive, and there's going to be some great wrestling.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Guys.
Yep.